Legend of Total War here, and today I'm going to be making a video that'll probably blow up in my face in a few months, and make a prediction video speculating as to what's coming in the next DLC, in terms of a 3 Lord pack, which I think is what's coming. I'm going to be predicting the races involved and the characters involved, including the legendary lords, including the FLC character, and also the legendary heroes. Now this is going to be a prediction, which means I'm guessing. This is not a leak video, so I don't have sources whispering in my ears going, trust me Legend, it's going to be this. I'm totally just taking a guess based on the characters that are just left, just not currently in the game, and that seem likely for the next DLC based on my skewed point of view. So I'm going to try to reason as much as possible as to why I think that is what I'm predicting is going to come is coming, not just randomly spew out a few names and then just not justify it whatsoever. So you guys let me know in the comments below whether or not you think that my justification for it is okay, whether you think my prediction is going to be completely wrong. That's totally cool. I mean, when it comes to these sort of predictions, it doesn't matter if I predict it right or wrong. This is all just for a bit of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoy it and take part. Let me know what you think is coming in for the next DLC, and who knows, maybe you're right. In fact, you've got a higher chance of being right than me. Anyway, let's get into this. So the 3 races that I think are coming for the next DLC are going to be Slaanesh, oh, surprise, and High Elves, and Norsca. So originally I thought it would be Slaanesh, High Elves, and Dark Elves, because I thought that would be more thematic. But as I started to look into characters that the Dark Elves don't yet have into the game, I thought, wow, there is nothing that they could add here that would actually make anyone want to buy this DLC. So I thought that Creative Assembly probably would notice that. And also the Dark Elves are not really a particularly popular race. So I think that if they added the Dark Elves in this 3-way DLC, it basically wouldn't sell very well at all. Now, Norsca's not particularly popular by any means. But the thing is with Norsca, their race is kind of boring. It's not that the characters themselves are boring, because the Norscan characters are actually Chaos Lords. They're Warriors of Chaos. It's just that Norsca is just a subset of the Warriors of Chaos in Total War Warhammer 3. And so when I had a look at what was left for the Warriors of Chaos, there are a lot of like Chaos Lord chieftains that are alive and have a lot of involvement in the time of Karl Franz that have not yet been included into the game and could very easily be added into Norsca. And so that's what my reasoning is for why I think Norsca is going to be included as opposed to the Dark Elves. Now as for the High Elves do actually have a fair few characters that are quite interesting and quite a lot of units that have not yet been added into the game. And that's why I think that Slaanesh should be pitted up against High Elves and Norsca. Alright, so let's get into the actual characters themselves. We're going to start with Slaanesh. I think this is the safest bet. I mean, they've done the other 3. They've done the Zinch-focused one. Then they've done Nurgle. Then recently, of course, the Omens of Destruction with Khorne. It does kind of make sense that Slaanesh would be next. But again, there's no guarantee. We'll just wait and see. So, another pattern that I've seen emerge, and this could be going nowhere, but I've noticed that there is there's an alternating pattern in between the Legendary Lords and FLC Lords for these Lord packs, for these 3-way Lord packs, and that is basically the DLC Lord goes in this pattern. It goes Demon, Mortal, Demon, I think Mortal. Because the Changeling was a demon. Of course, that DLC didn't have an FLC Legendary Lord, but I think if it was to have one, it should have been Egram Van Horseman, who was a mortal. And then we go to Thrones of Decay. You've got Tamrokan, who is mortal, and then you've got Epidemius who is a demon, as the FLC. And then you've got Omens of Destruction. You've got Skulltaker, who is a demon. Although it's a bit iffy in regard to Skulltaker, because there's a bit of lore saying that he was originally like a Norscan chieftain or a Chaos Lord chieftain, and then he became a demon, and he's kind of like an exalted bloodletter. So it's just weird with him. So I'm not 100% convinced I'm on point with this, but it does. He is at least at the start of Total War Warhammer 3 when you play him. He is a demon. He's not a mortal who can become a demon like Warriors of Chaos characters can. So. Yeah, anyway, he's a demon, and Arbal the Undefeated is a mortal. And so I think with the Slaanesh DLC, it'll be a mortal as the main DLC character, and a demon as the FLC Lord. So, for the DLC Lord, I think that it's going to be D'Challa, the Denied One. Now, I think that this makes the most sense when you're pairing up against the High Elves, because T'Challa is actually a High Elf, well, she was, before she was twisted by Slaanesh. Now, in terms of her starting location, I'll speculate a little bit on this, but this is just a guess. I have all of this stuff as a guess. But because they've just added some more territory in Kuresh, and Kuresh is kind of known for having snake men, and she's kind of a snake woman, I kind of think they're gonna put her in Cathay, in where the Kuresh land was just opened up. That's where I think they're planning on putting her. As for where she's actually going to end up, who knows? You could also put her in the Northern Chaos Waste, but at the same time, that place is just chock-a-block full of Chaos Lords and Demons. There isn't really that much more space to put her up there, but typically speaking, that is where she would spend most of her time, basically trying to kill her husband, who's the Slaaneshi Demon Prince or something. Slaaneshi Demon, I don't know. I don't know her lore that well, but those are two possible locations. I think it's more likely to put her in Kuresh than it is in the Northern Chaos Waste, which is, like I said, it's just too full of characters. And then for the FLC character, I think it is going to be the Mask. So the Mask is favored demonette. I have no idea where they're going to put her. They could put her anywhere. But that's what I think is going to be for the FLC character for the Slaanesh focused DLC side of things. Now, as for the legendary heroes, I've gone with 3 possible choices. It depends on whether or not they go with 2 legendary heroes like they did with Omens of Destruction. And if they do that, then I think it'll be the 2 characters that actually interacted with each other. That being Stryfar, the Swordsvinia, I don't know these characters, as one legendary hero, and the other one as Vandred the Majestic. Now, I believe Vandred the Majestic was actually killed by Strykar, and so maybe those 2, it could be like one or the other. Maybe that's how they'll do things, so that would be quite interesting. You can't actually get both legendary heroes. Maybe that's how they might do it. But that being said, I think that the reason that they added 2 legendary heroes for Khorne was because there was no like generic hero that they could add. Whereas with Slaanesh, there is actually generic heroes they could add. So they probably will just add 1 legendary hero, at which case I think it'll be most likely going to be Giberion. Because this guy fits the bill basically for what the FLC characters have been like. Basically, melee character with not really that much lore, and he's just another melee legendary hero. That's what I think. Whereas the other guys have a bit more lore. They would be more interesting, but I kind of feel like you can't have one without the other. Again, it just depends on how they want to go about it. So if I was going to lean more towards one than the other, I think it's most likely going to be Gilberion. That's, again, just a guess. I got no information on whether or not that's actually true. I don't really care too much about the legendary heroes, but that's just a guess. Okay, then we move on to the High Elf stuff. I'm not going to spend too much time on this video here. Don't want this to be a 40-minute video. So, as for the High Elf stuff, I think that the mainline Lord, the DLC Lord, is going to be Azelin, the Sea Lord. Now, I think that this gives a good opportunity for another High Elf character to not start on Ulthuan, which means that it could be good for these 2, so for Sea Lord Azelin and T'Challa to essentially be locked in some sort of combat. And that way you could really put Sea Lord Azelin anywhere in the friggin' world at sea. You could even put him in the where Tor Elassor is, where the High Elves currently are anyway, and just make him the legendary lord of those islands out there in the middle of nowhere, which that'd be a pretty easy start position if that is going to be the case. And that would also make him fairly close to Imric, which I guess that's not too bad. But he's also not that far away from Kuresh if they decide to expand that area. Again, I don't really know, but I think that anywhere in that area could be good. They could also make him kind of a horde character, like with Malachi, where he's got his own shipbuilding, but his faction isn't actually a horde. I think they're pretty much done with doing that style of characters. But yeah, that's what I think is going to be for the characters for the High Elves here. And a lot of the units that are left for the High Elves, I think, could actually be very well fitting for this character. Like, for example, one of their generic heroes is like like a Lothern Sea Guard hero, I think. So that could work out well for it. So it would be thematic, and then there's like the Sky Cutters. Again, I'm not too familiar with the units, so I'm not going to speculate on them. But I think with the units that are left to choose from, this guy here, it sort of thematically makes sense to make him the lord of that DLC. Now there are other characters, like there's one that's in command of Krace, but Krace is already pitted up really early against Nakari. And putting a legendary lord there screws over Nakari big time. So I don't think that is what they're going to do. I think that Krace, or Trace, I don't know, Krace and Kothik are still going to be punching bags for Nakari for the beginning of his campaign, because he can have quite a difficult campaign otherwise. Although I do expect Slaanesh to get a pretty decent rework, but we'll have to wait and see. So that's what I think is going to be for the Legendary Lord for the High Elves in the coming DLC. As for the heroes, I think it'll be Caradhrian, who is a Phoenix Guard, captain of the Phoenix Guard, which I think that leads him to be a good legendary hero. You attach him into an army. And also this is another plus for Creative Assembly, is that Caradhrian doesn't speak. He's got a vow of silence. So that's great. They don't even have to hire a voice actor. Any way that Creative Assembly can cut costs, it's going to be great for them. But having this guy here as a legendary lord, I don't think that's going to happen. But having him as a legendary hero, I think he makes the most sense. And he'll just be a character that just like boosts Phoenix Guard by an absolute ton. I mean that makes sense, considering they're a unit that's not really that heavily boosted by much other things, and he's actually got a decent amount of lore, and he's actually got his own equipment. So it does make sense, I think, that Caradhrian would be included in the game at some point, and he just, to me, doesn't seem like a legendary lord. He seems like a legendary hero. So I would be very surprised if he wasn't a legendary hero. So I'm going to put a little bit more faith into this one here than some of my other picks. So that's all I'm picking there for the High Elves. Again, let me know in the comments below whether you think I'm correct or incorrect. Let's move on to the Norscan stuff. So for the legendary lord for Norsca, I think it's going to be Egil Striborn. So when I was doing my research for Norsca as to which legendary lords could be chosen for Norsca, there's actually quite a few, so it did make it quite difficult to choose. But this is a character's name that I've heard pop up multiple times. He's not in the game at all at the moment. He's not even mentioned. And there's been no instance of a character that's currently in the game that's been elevated to a legendary lord. So, for example, Boris Todbringer, still not really a legendary lord, not a playable legendary lord anyway. You've got the Red Duke, also not a legendary lord, and you've got Marius Leitdorf up in Averland, also not been elevated to a playable character. And those characters have been in the game for ages. So when I think about characters from Norsca, there's a character called Lost Eriksson of the Kull, which actually, that name doesn't really make sense because I was doing a bit of research on this, and because Lost Eriksson is actually supposed to be a Björnling, not an actual Kull. So I think they're wrong about that, putting them in the game like that. So that's the dude that commands Skeggi, but that guy's already in the game, and that's a character that exists in the lore. So that leads me to believe that he is not going to be added as the legendary lord because he's already in the freaking game. Whereas Egil, I don't know, Striborn, he's not in the game currently, and he is the High Lord or High Jarl of the Scalings. Now, the Scalings are in the game, but the problem is if you put him in their start position, I think that's a little bit weird because that puts you right next to Wulfric the Wanderer, and I don't think that would necessarily be a good choice. Now, this guy here is a champion of Khorne. I think you could basically evict Lost Eriksson, and you could put Egil Striborn in Skeggi, which would put him up against Master Mundi early on. But also, that's really friggin' close to Ulthuan, and Skeggi is a Norscan settlement. So that way you've got room for Wulfric the Wanderer to have a bit of a rework and then get his like teleport mechanic, which we'll probably get, maybe, I'm just guessing. Because Norsca's definitely in need of a rework, there's no doubt about that. I think most people are assuming that's happening. But I think that he's most likely going to be somewhere starting close to Ulthuan, but not necessarily close to the other legendary lords that he's paired up against. So that's what I'm thinking there. I mean, you really could put Norscan characters in loads of different locations because they sail around. They're like Vikings. They sail around and they cause mayhem. You could put them in Bretonnia. Again, putting them in Bretonnia also puts them close to Ulthuan. And I think that makes a bit of sense. That's what I'm thinking of in terms of this. So you could just root up the Scalings and just put them over in Skeggi. But again, the Skeggi is supposed to be occupied by Bjornlings. Bjornlings get wiped out by Wulfric on turn 1, whether you're the player or the AI. They get wiped out straight away. So maybe they're going to get uplifted, moved somewhere else. I don't know. But we'll see. So that's what I'm thinking for Norsca for their Legendary Lord. Now, as for the Legendary Hero, this one was a little bit weird because you could make this guy a Lord as well. But there is an instance of a character who should be a Lord who is a hero, and once they've set a precedence, you could assume they're going to do it again. And that's with Scar Bloodwrath. So Scar Bloodwrath is actually a Lord. He's not really supposed to be a hero. It's just, if they're going to add heroes for Khorne, they've got to put someone in there. And Scar Bloodwrath is pretty minor. So I think that the legendary hero for Norsca is likely to be Vardek Krom. And I think that this character here could be a legendary hero for Norsca or the Warriors of Chaos. So it just depends on whichever the player is choosing. Because this guy is of the Kull faction. And the Kull are the Norscan faction that Archaon vassalizes on turn 1. So making him the Lord of the Kull, only to become a vassal of Archaon on turn 1, in my opinion, doesn't make sense. Having him be a hero that is just out there butchering shit, while the Kull still exists as a bitch boys to Warriors of Chaos, to Archaon, that makes a bit more sense. He's not directly subservient to Archaon straight away. He's of the Kull tribe, but he's doing his own shit somewhere else as a legendary hero. Sometimes he might find his way into Wulfric the Wanderer's campaign. He may find his way into other Warriors of Chaos campaigns. I'm not entirely sure. But I think that this guy here could be good as a legendary hero, although I do acknowledge that he probably should be a Lord. But again, there's just not enough time and places to put every single character that's supposed to be a legendary lord in the game. They're going to have to demote some of these characters to heroes in order to get them in there. I think that's the only way that's going to work. Also, forgive all the bloody ads. I don't have ad blocker. They're super annoying on these wikis. So there we go. That's the prediction that I've made here for the DLC. Just in quick summary. So I think it's going to be Slaanesh, High Elves, Norsca, and I think Slaanesh characters are going to be T'Challa, DLC, The Mask, FLC, Striker of Swordvinir, and Vandred the Majestic as a possible choice for heroes, legendary heroes, or it'll be Giberion. Again, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I can't be sure when it comes to a prediction, just a guess. When it comes to High Elves, I think Azelin the Sea Lord is going to be the legendary lord. I think Caradhrian is going to be the legendary hero, and I think Egil Striborn is going to be the legendary lord for Norsca, with Krom the Conqueror or Vardek Krom being the legendary hero for Norsca, but they'll also make him available for the Warriors of Chaos, as they have previously done with many of the other DLCs. It's basically just been a Warriors of Chaos smorgasbord for legendary heroes. They've got so many now. Anyway, that's my speculation video. Let me know in the comments below whether you agree or disagree. Again, this is not a leak. I would be very surprised if all of this was correct, because it is all just a guess. I'd say it's far more likely that most of it is actually wrong. As for the races, again, just a guess. I have no actual idea, but we'll wait and see, because there's only so many races really that need a DLC. Norsca definitely does, and I'm sure many people say, oh no, the Dark Elves definitely do. But as I said, when I looked into the Dark Elves, I didn't see it. I didn't see anything there that they could really use. There's no characters there that could be interesting, and I think that Egil Striborn is more interesting than anything the Dark Elves have. I think it's just Dark Elves are kind of a lost cause at this point. That's my thoughts. And when I've read through other people's posts and predictions in the Reddit and stuff, there are a few people predicting that Norsca is coming. So I don't think I'm the first person here to think that that Norska might actually be part of the next DLC. I think we're pretty much secure on Slanesh versus High Elves, and I think it really comes down to the third one, whether it is actually Norska. But anyway, you let me know in the comments below what you guys think is coming. It's all just speculation. It's all just fun. There's no way to know what's even going to happen, because even if you do get leaks, plans get changed all the time. There's no way to really know what's coming, and we'll just have a bit of fun with it in the meantime. And you let me know if there's any characters that you think are more important that I just overlooked. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time. Later, guys.